My number one is Goldschmidt because I think he's the most well-rounded. I can see their argument for Freeman because Freeman's my number two. I can see their argument for Freeman as one just because he's a more consistent overall hitter, but Goldschmidt could steal bases. He could hit the opposite way, not that Freeman can't. Great defender, and I think he's just been, a little more consistent as a whole when it comes to season, and with less help around him. The Braves have had really good teams lately. They also had really bad teams at stretches of Freeman's career, but the Diamondbacks, for the most part, haven't been as good of a team as the Braves.
Come on, Speedy. We're not going for a whole life story here.
So Goldschmidt's 1, Freeman's 2 for me. Anthony Rizzo's number 3. He's not far behind either. He could do pretty much everything. He's one of the best on-base percentage guys. Power, defense, he does everything too. So he's number 3. Number 4 is Joey Votto, the best vision at the plate in the entire league. Best on-base percentage for a while, and he's a great defender too. I know he did a bad year last year. That's probably why Tyler put him down, but that's not his whole career. His whole career, his track record's phenomenal. Number 5 is Alonso for me. Very good opening season for him. Better defensively than I thought too, from what a lot of Met fans were saying. He wasn't going to be good defensively, and obviously 53 home runs. He'll regress a little, but he improved a lot in other areas in the second half of the season too. Number 6 for me is Eric Hosmer. I think he's been very underrated for a long time. Great playoff player for Kansas City for a while. Excellent defender at first base. The only thing that's down on him has been power over the years, but he's gotten better at that too. So number 6 is Hosmer. Number 7, that's where I'll have Jose Abreu, who's been a very consistent hitter, all-star player, mainly as a DH for a lot of the time. That's why I have him a little lower on the first baseman list. He's not as good of a defender at first base, but he can hit for average. He strikes out a lot, but he also drives in a lot of runs too. So he's number 7. Number 8 is Matt Olson. I think he is very underrated, and he's had back-to-back 25 home run seasons. Again, with an Oakland lineup that is pretty good, but again, is still very young. So again, it's not like he had a ton of help around him. He's a decent defender, and he's a good rising young first baseman. So I'll put him number 8. Number 9, I have Josh Bell. I think Josh Bell really showed a lot last year. He was underrated for a while even before that too. Again, it's just a team that didn't have a lot of help around him. And his numbers, again, they weren't flashy, but they were definitely good. And then this year he really broke out, 30 home runs, even though his batting average wasn't great. So I have him 9, and then I'll have Santana 10. Former catcher, can play many different positions. Has been very consistent as a whole too. He's been injury prone, sure, but he's been bumped around a lot too. So playing in those circumstances helps. So those are my top 10.
My top 10, Paul Goldschmidt. He's the best first baseman in baseball. It's not even a question. Anybody that argues that, yes, he had a down year last year, but his down year still almost gave him 100 RBIs. He still had over 30 home runs. The guy is a stud. Anybody that doesn't think he's the number 1 first baseman in baseball, I don't know what to tell you. My number 2, and I'm going to pick this guy because he won the MVP last year, and he did play a little bit of outfield, but he is under a first baseman. It's Cody Bellinger.
If you were including Bellinger.
Yes.
Okay.
Cody Bellinger, to me, is the second best first baseman in baseball. Because of his year last year, he was the MVP of the National League. He had a sensational year. Yes, he played bits and pieces in the outfield, but he is under first base. So
he'd probably be 3 on my list then.
He would be my number 2.
He's number 2 on yours? Okay.
Freddie Freeman would be my number 3 right now. He is the best all-around first baseman in my eyes in baseball. It's not a question. He's a great defender, great offensive player, power, really on both sides of the plate. He can hit it all over the field, and he hits for average, he hits for runs. The guy can do everything. So he would be my number 3. Number 4, Anthony Rizzo would be my number 4. Anthony Rizzo on the Cubs, power hitter, had an off season last year. In the beginning of the season, got better as the season progressed. Still wasn't the player that I thought he was going to be last year, but I still think he's amongst the league's best. So I like him very, very much so as my number 4. My number 5, I'm looking. All right, my number 5 is Joey Votto. Joey Votto, who I think can hit for average. He's a great defensive player, excellent defensive player. Love the way he plays, fun to watch. So I would absolutely put Joey Votto as my number 5. My number 6, Eric Hosmer. I don't understand why nobody put Eric Hosmer on this list. He had an offseason last year. He also played for a Padre team that just added some players in the offseason. He's going to have even a better year this year. If you're looking at this year and he's still in the prime of his career, you could see Eric Hosmer in that lineup hit you 30 to 35 home runs and give you over 100 RBIs. I'm going to put Eric Hosmer there. What am I, number 7?
You're number 7.
I would put Jose Abreu. The power, the defense, everything that he does is sensational. A great player. Could do everything, and he's the best player on that team right now, and the best veteran on the team. Now, the youth of that team is sensational. They're going to be better, so I like him. Number 8, I would put Wil Myers.
Really?
Yes. I like Wil Myers. I think he's a good defensive player. They moved him at first. He's got power on both sides of the plate. I like Wil. Now, the question is what Wil Myers is going to show up every day and what's not going to show up every day. I still think Wil this year is going to have a better year. He's still in the Padres, right?
Yep. They've been trying to move his contract for a while.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to. And
No,
I think he's going to
either.
I think he's going to have a good year this year. So I like Wil Myers. I'm trying to go look at my deep. All right. I guess you could say at number 9, I would put Max Muncy. Had a good season last year. Dodgers, he's back and forth with Bellinger, but we don't know where Bellinger's going to play. But if Muncy does play first base, he's going to give you 30 home runs. It looked like last year he really showed his worth. He's going to give you close to 100 RBIs. I like his power, and he's a very underrated defensive player. And my number 10 is Carlos Santana. Again, a guy that can play multiple positions. He's a good defensive first baseman, adds power to that lineup, and can do a lot of things very, very well. So my number 10 would be Carlos Santana. So
Wil Myers, that's an interesting
Yes.
name to the list.
Why?
Because he's a very streaky hitter year to year. He's been hurt a lot, and
So
he's
what?
not a great defensive first baseman, so that's interesting.
I like Wil Myers, and I think Wil Myers will do very, very well this year in that lineup.
Top 10 in the league, though?
Yes.
Interesting.
I don't think the league is that strong.
My number 1, I agree with him, is Real Muto. I think he's definitely the most well-rounded in the league. He can do everything. Defense, great hitter, good average hitter, can steal bases. He could do really everything, and he's very durable, too, so that ends up helping. Number 2, I'll take Gary Sanchez. I know everyone's going to say, all right, his defense is spotty, which is understandable, but he's still got a good arm. He's his second best percentage in terms of throwing guys out, and again, his power is unreal. 30 home runs in 2 different seasons already in his career. Last season, he still had 25 in a down year, so Sanchez is number 2 for me. Number 3 is where I have Perez. I think when healthy, he's very good, and he's stayed very good for a while. The only reason he wasn't number 2 is because we have to see what he is coming back from the surgery, but he's been very steady both offensively and defensively for the Royals, and extremely durable as well. So he's number 3 for me. Number 4, I have Yadier Molina. He's the best defensive catcher in baseball and has been for a long time. He's the best when it comes to working with pitchers. Even though his offensive numbers have did regress last year, he still hit for average very effectively. Recently, even 2018, he had 20 home runs too. So he proves he still can do it, even though he had a down year last year. So Molina's 4 for me. I have Contreras at 5. The only reason he's not a little higher is because he doesn't play as much as he should. And whether that's Joe Madden or whether that's his inconsistencies has stopped him. But he's been very good offensively. He's had close to 30 home runs in several different seasons. He's got a great arm as well. So he's number 5 for me. Number 6 is where I have Grandal. The only reason that Grandal's lower on my list than a lot of others is because of his defense. His defense is almost as bad, if not worse, than Sanchez's when you look at it, and a lot of people don't realize it. His hitting for average isn't as good, despite his power being good too. And again, he's kind of an inconsistent hitter and a bad playoff player too. Even when he was with the Dodgers, he was a really bad playoff player. So he's number 6 for me. Number 7 is where I have Garver. I liked his upside last year. I think he really showed a lot, both offensively and defensively. He regressed a little in the second half of the season after having an all-star caliber first half, but he has a lot of good upside. I can see him emerging into a top catcher. Number 8 is Ramos. I'm impressed with how he stayed healthy last year, and when he's healthy, he's a good offensive catcher. Problem is he's very big, so it's hard for him to be a good defensive catcher. It's hard for him to get down because he's very bulky. So that has hurt him in the past, as well as his injuries. 9, I have Buster Posey. I mean, when he's healthy, he's a serviceable option. He's regressed offensively, but he still hits for good average. He's been a 320 hitter recently, 288, things like that. And when he's healthy, he's still good. And number 10, I have Robinson Chirinos. Underrated for a while with the Rangers. Not great defensively, but good offensively. Been a 20 home run guy that nobody talks about for a while. So that's my top 10.
Number 1, JT Realmuto. He could do everything, steal bases, hit for average, hit for power. He could do everything, throw people out. He's a great play caller behind the plate. So JT Realmuto. That was my number 1. Number 2, Gary Sanchez, the power. He really improved defensively last year for the New York Yankees. He's a great DH. He could also play catcher. He plays about 110 to 120 games a season beyond the plate when healthy. So I love Gary Sanchez as my number 2. My number 3, it's an interesting argument back and forth, but I agree with you, Speedy. Salvador Perez, who I believe has been one of the best catchers in baseball for years, coming off an injury, didn't play really that much last season, missed a lot, and also got majorly hurt early in the season. So we have to see what he's going to come back as, but I think he's the 3rd. Number 4, Yasmani Grandal. He played very, very well last year. This is a guy that was expecting a lot of money, got a lot of money last year, got a big contract. I like the kid. I think he doesn't show up in big games. That's the problem with him. But when he does show up, he is a good player. Number 5 is Molina. Yadier Molina has been the best all-around catcher in baseball for many, many years. Even though his defense is there, his offense is really taking a step back. But I like Molina as my number 5. Number 6, you can go back and forth, but I'm going to say Wilson Ramos. Wilson Ramos, a sensational year last year, played very well for the Mets. He has been a very good hitting catcher over the years, especially with Washington. I really, really like Wilson Ramos as my number 6. Number 7, this is where it gets tricky because you can go back and forth on who you want and who you're not. But I'm going to put Mitch Garver as my number 7. He had a great year last year, proved himself as a good catcher in this league. He's still fairly young, still in the prime of his career, going to get into his prime of his career where he could really turn into a superstar player. So we have to see what he could do back-to-back seasons. Number 8, I could go back and forth on who number 8 is, but I'm going to say Buster Posey because he's done it year in and year out. Even though his offense has taken a step back, he's still one of the best and most dangerous people behind the plate when it comes to getting on base and walking. So Buster Posey as my number 8. Number 9, this is where it gets very, very tricky, but I'm going to put Wilson Contreras. He had a good season last year. He doesn't play. I don't understand why he doesn't start. That's Joe Maddon's fault, like you said. But when this guy does play, he's very, very good. Very aggressive at the plate, offensively. Very good at calling behind the plate for pitchers. Pitchers love playing when he calls.
Well, he starts more now. I'm more referring to earlier in his career.
My number 10, Tom Murphy.
Ooh.
And I'm going to tell you why Tom Murphy. He is an undergraded, undercard type of guy, catcher right now in the league. Nobody even talks about him. Nobody even knows who he is because he's a young player. But watch this year. He's going to break out. Whenever the season does start, this kid is the real deal. I love this kid. This kid could be a superstar in this league for many, many years to come. I'm telling you right now, this kid's got power. He can do everything. He is another JT Realmuto. So I don't know if he could steal the bases as fast as JT can, but he could do everything as well, and he's got a lot of power. So
it'll be tough in that lineup.
Yes.
That lineup's not good at all.
Yeah, but I like him. Tom Murphy. That is my top 10 catchers going into the 2020 season. I just think
Tom Murphy. That's an interesting one. I mean, it's possible. He's a good player. He had a good first half last year, and he's good offensively. Just will be tough in that lineup.
He's my number 10 guy. If you look at my lineup, I put Contreras as my 9. I put a lot of guys. I threw a lot of guys around, but I knew what my 1, 2, and 3 were.
Another name to watch as a young one this year because he played well last year is the Diamondbacks' Carson Kelly. Watch out for him in a better lineup this year too.
Again,
maybe jump into that top 10.
There's a lot of guys you could pick from because you don't know who's going to have a good year. I mean, look what Travis d'Arnaud did.
Position.
look what Travis d'Arnaud did last year when he went to Tampa. He played completely different.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
But he could be a star. He could really.
Oh, he will be. He's on the Braves now in that lineup. He's going to hit 400 against.
Oh, he's now on the Braves.
Yeah, he's on the Braves now. So he's going to hit 400, 500 against the Mets, and then he'll just feast the rest of the year because he left the Mets. That's what happens.
Yeah, but he's another guy that could really, reach the top 10 this year. d'Arnaud did not really produce with the New York Mets. He went somewhere else in Tampa, and he produced there. I think the Mets should have given it a little bit more time. I really do. But again, Met fans wanted him out, and so did Brody Van Wagenen.
It's easy to look at that in hindsight.
Well,
but it was the right move to get rid of him.
25 years old. You don't give up. You don't give up on a guy that's not even in the prime of his career. Has a lot of years left at the catcher position, and they're not easy to find catchers that have the power that he does.